Hello everyone, my name is Tyler. Welcome to episode 15 of Fortnite Battle Royale Ideas, the series where you give your ideas for Fortnite and I'll give you my thoughts and implementations on the ideas. Today's video idea is on a grappling hook. John Thompson comments on a video by mentioning a zipline idea, an idea I plan on discussing in the future, and PJ Habit responds to this comment by saying, I like the zipline idea. I will expand on that by suggesting a grappling hook device that you could use to traverse the map vertically, such as up terrain or structure or enemy base. Snipers TO3 responds, that would be great, but it should be like a trap or jump pad where once you place it, you can't pick it back up. Also, it needs to have a set range so you can't just grapple all the way across the map. Mathew Mod is a fan of both of these ideas, as am I. In another comment, Disabled Donkey says, I think they should add a grappling hook. Just think, you're looking to use a grenade launcher, loud and noticeable, exploding someone's base, then picking them off with a shotgun. Or you can have a grappling hook. You zip up the tower, then sneak in behind them and kill them quick and quiet. It would be quicker than running, but you can't shoot it at non-breakable objects. It won't be too quiet though, it would make the noise of zipping up a jacket. Assassin Gamer 22 responds to this. He says, I feel this is a great idea, but it would be a little bit overpowered. One way they could do it is to have it so the distance won't be too long and it would get longer the higher the rarity. And Gandalf LC, who says, add legendary grappling hooks. For balancing issues, they would only come in airdrops. They would have a short range and it would take like 2 seconds to use it. In the background, you're seeing some solo gameplay of me dropping into Moisty, where typically in my gameplays, I showcase quite the good bit of potato aim. But in this one, I've got quite the opposite. I stick to the south end of the map, trying to stay stealthy, until it all goes south at the end and I'm put into a position where my good aim won't help me any longer as I'm being rushed by a shotgunner. If you do enjoy the gameplay, give the video a thumbs up. As you can tell from the comments received for this video and the style of the series in general, there is quite the variety on how a grapple should work. A grapple is something I believe is subject to quite the array of balancing variables, from distance to uses, from rarity to speed, from its intended use to inventory space. Let's talk about its intended purpose first. An item that allows you to ascend a vertical space that would otherwise be impassable by walking unless you were to make ramps to get up to it. I think we can all agree that this is the basis of the idea, though what's to say it couldn't be used to swing across a horizontal gap as well? Or maybe something you could use to shimmy down safely from great heights, or even tie off at one end at the top of a hill and the other end at the bottom, and use it as a zipline. Keep these possibilities in mind when discussing the rest of the ideas. The benefits of having a grapple would simply be that you can get to the top of a mountain or one of the towers at Tilted, or really any vertical space, without having to build. This is a stealthy option because you won't have to see any construction being put up. When a ramp finishes building, you can see it light up slightly, a visual cue that can be caught from the distance indicating an enemy was just there. I've spotted many people from the distance simply because of this, and I often wonder, when I think I'm flanking around the backside of a mountain up to someone, how many people off in the distance see me doing so. Another benefit from not having to construct because of this grapple is that you won't have to use resources, which means you won't have to gather as many. Imagine how much time you would save not gathering resources just to ascend hills. Sure, you gather some resources for cover, to build bases, and for some other sticky situations, but the time spent harvesting those hundreds of resources used to ascend and descend mountains and buildings can be spent looting, keeping lookout for enemies, or finding a better power position. This, in my opinion, would be very good. I don't think this would be game-breaking in any way, but what are some alternative ways it could function while still retaining those properties, and what are some balancing factors it could have to make it better or worse? I think the first question that needs to be asked is, what can you grapple onto? Can it only grapple destructible objects? That would include just about everything except mountains. Or can it include mountains as well? Maybe it can only grapple onto player construction. This would mean you couldn't grapple to trees, and if you wanted to ascend a mountain quickly, you or a squad mate would have to build some floors alongside the mountain, making you have to think ahead, while still giving the benefit of, let's say, a squad mate keeping lookout at the top of a tower, while you go to the bottom to get the loot drop and can quickly grapple back up to him. My vote is that you can grapple onto anything that can be destroyed. It has to be at least one story up, and you can't grapple trees. That way, you still have plenty of options if you're surrounded by buildings at tilted towers, but still have to think ahead if you want to be able to ascend mountains. This adds another interesting dynamic. If what your grapple is attached to can be destroyed, what if it is destroyed? Maybe you think you were being stealthy by throwing your grapple to the top of a 7-story building or a floor on the side of a mountain, but an enemy sees your grapple attach and destroys the object, making you fall to your death mid-climb. I suppose an inherent ability of the grapple would be that while you're scaling up the surface, you don't have your weapon out. This leaves you completely exposed, and if you were going to gain access to your weapon, you would have to let go and sacrifice taking falling damage. This alone brings balance and makes the item a high risk, high reward type of item. The grapple could also work in a few different ways. It could be an item that has durability, only giving it a few uses. It could be a stackable item, so if you have 5 grappling hooks, you would have 5 uses and be able to split them with your friends. If this were the case, then would a grappling hook stay where it was placed, allowing you or an enemy tailing you to use it again? Unless of course you destroyed what it was attached to. You could leave the grapple up behind you for your friends to climb up, and at the same time, you can begin ascending the next spot with your second grapple. I'm partial to the stackable ability myself, where you have more, but once it's placed, it's placed. But they could also make it so that you can reel it up or wrap it up to be used again, whether or not it's one reusable thing or stackable thing. This brings me to my next point, animation, the balancing factor of time. How long does it take to use this item? Do you wind up the item? And by that I mean the longer you hold down the trigger, the higher you can throw it. So you're swinging it around like you're getting up for a really strong throw. I personally don't think there should be a cap to how high you can throw it if it's done this way. If you wanted to attach to something that was 7 stories tall, then you'd have to wind it up, so to speak, for longer. And if you didn't wind it up for long enough, it fails to reach its intended height, grappling something closer or nothing at all. Or does the item shoot up, say like a weapon? If it shoots up and there's no timing to learn, I'd say the ascend needs to be slower than if you were going to throw it up, for balancing reasons. How do you ascend? Is it mechanical in a way that gears would pull you up, or is it like a ladder where you shimmy or climb your way up? And could you descend? I imagine you could in a similar way to how a rock climber would jump out from the face of the wall and land a few meters down. This could open up another mechanism of being able to slowly descend by simply sliding down, or quickly descend in the way I mentioned, but maybe at the cost of a couple points of health, or simply at the cost of being more noticeable, or loud, as you jump out from the wall. Depending on if it shoots up or is thrown up, could also depend on how it is wrapped back up, if that is an option. If it's thrown, maybe it takes a few seconds to wrap it back up to be able to use it again. This would really suck if you missed your throw. If it shoots up, maybe it just winds back up on its own to be able to be used again. Two simple differences that greatly change its viability. I do like the idea of it being found only in loot drops. An item so unique needs to have a particular way of obtaining it. And lastly, sound. Just like footsteps, how audible this item is in-game will greatly change its effectiveness and use around the map. Maybe it makes a loud clink sound when it attaches. If it does shoot out like a weapon, maybe there's an audible kerplunk or blast sound. And while climbing up or down, maybe there's a zip sound, or if you're literally climbing it, there's a louder than footprints climbing sound. This is a neat idea and one I honestly think could make its way into Fortnite. I like the additional possibilities it presents, while still having tons of balancing factors that could buff or nerf it, and with being able to destroy what it's attached to, it almost has a hard counter. What do you think of the idea in general? Do you think this would be a fun addition, and from a tactical and realistic standpoint, how would you want a grappling hook to work, or would you want it at all? Thank you so much everyone for watching. If you're not already, subscribe for Fortnite and all things gaming. If you are, tell your friends. If you enjoyed the gameplay or commentary, give the video a thumbs up to show your support. This has been Toast, and I'll see you on the next video.